Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sagittarius October 2022 Miracle Message reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. So, hi, everyone, and welcome. This reading is meant to take a look at a miracle or a opportunity that wants to come in for you from spirit that is going to help elevate or grow or bring prosperity or even answer a prayer that is specifically linked to some aspect of your current experience. And I am a big believer that there is always miracles that want to come in for us, but that often we choose to not be open and receptive to them. And this can be because we are afraid of change. This can be that we're not looking in the right direction because we're so focused on looking over here for something to happen for us instead of kind of being a little more open. So this reading is meant to help you kind of be able to look or to point you in the right direction as to where to look, where to keep your spiritual eyes and ears open for this part of your experience that really wants to bring an extra level of prosperity into it. So I'm going to pull a card here, Sagittarius, and we're going to take a look at first kind of setting the tone for the reading, and then I'll pull additional cards and clarifiers to get a bigger, deeper message there. So we have Round and Round, number 25. Now, just right off the bat, I love this card because it brings in that beautiful golden spiral, the golden ratio element in here where it's the Fibonacci sequence. And it's beautiful. It shows that even though we feel like we might be going in a circle and that maybe we're revisiting the same things over and over again, or we're not making headway, that it's showing that actually we are ever so slightly continuing to expand outward and we're growing. And it will continue to grow. But it also shows what lies beneath that is the divine design, that everything has a part of being, or that everything is a part of that golden ratio, including you and your entire experience. Now, number 25 breaks down to the number 7. The number 7 is a beautiful number that harnesses the energy of co-creating with spirit and that confidence that comes when we know that we are having faith to continue to create, and grow and adapt in our life, but that we're doing so with an eye to taking what comes in from spirit and working with that we're not kind of fighting against the flow, we're working with the flow. So I'm going to pull the book here that comes with this deck, and we're going to read the message first, and then we'll get into the cards and more of the intuitive message coming through. So we have Round and Round. It says essential meanings. The spiral quality of events when a lesson isn't quite integrated. Cycles you are challenged to break, revisiting a pattern from a new perspective. It says the Oracle's message. The appearance of this card is a reminder that although it may appear that you've gone backward, the truth is that you are standing at a higher level looking down into your circumstances. You will learn something, do something better, and break a cycle set up in the past. You actually have a bird's eye view of your initial footprints and can access the wisdom and lessons learned. Now, I'm going to also read the prosperity message because that's what we're really focused on in this reading, is where there's an element of prosperity that wants to come in for a certain part of your experience this month. It says, if you're in a scenario that appears to be an echo of something that's already happened in the past in your work life, it is because you're being invited to see what you couldn't see before. This is a perfect time for you to look at the deeper motives you have and your attraction to the opportunities and people who have entered your life to be part of your journey to prosperity. Who helps you navigate? Who sabotages you? Who supports you? What are the familiar signs and your responses to them when you find yourself in a repeat of a pattern of the past? It's a good time to get a coach or mentor who can help you see what you can't on your own. Repeat what works, not what doesn't. Then you will free yourself from the old cycles and cease going round and round. So this is a beautiful month to really make a major breakthrough. Sagittarius. When we think about going round and round, and it's true, it's like even though you're going round, you're at a higher perspective here than you were when you were kind of in it before. So I think a lot of you are going back and revisiting something. And it's something that could have even been brought up last month when we were going through that kind of intense Mercury retrograde period. And that now, as you were forced to revisit that, you're coming to this point of perspective where you can look at that and say, wow, I handled that so much more differently than I did 10 years ago when I was faced with the same issue. Or now that I'm faced with this issue again, or this person again, or this dynamic again, I realize I'm at such a different place in my life and in my growth cycle that I don't have to respond in that same way. Back at another time, I might have done X, Y, and Z, but now I'm able to do A, B, and C. And this is where the major change can come in, where all of a sudden you're freeing yourself. I do get this feeling, and I think it did come through in your illumination reading as well. There's kind of this feeling of like breaking the shackles, of freeing yourself of something that maybe has held you back for quite some time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a first card here for the concept of curiosity. And this is where Spirit would like you to stay curious as to where perhaps you're blocking yourself from receiving the miracle this month. And really what this is an area where you might be blocking yourself from actually breaking a cycle, from seeing clearly something about something that's happened recently to you or that's currently happening, where there is this point of where you can change how you react, you can change how you respond, you can change your whole perspective, and therein will change your entire experience, including your external one. So let's see here. What does Sagittarius need to know about where to stay curious as to where they could be potentially inadvertently blocking themselves from gaining this beautiful, miraculous insight that's really going to help them break the chains of where they've been holding themselves back in some aspect of their experience. I do like the cards to try to come out naturally, so I apologize. Sometimes they do take a while to come out. Let's see, Sagittarius, where might you be blocking yourself? Where can you open yourself up to allowing this awareness to come in? Okay, so we have strategy, number 21. Interesting. So 21 breaks down to the number 3 in numerology. The number 3 is always a number of divinity for me. It's a number of also working with your creativity and greeting life with the innocence and optimism of a child. So when we think of strategy, there is a feeling here just intuitively when I'm looking at the feather and the kind of coins and the map that's on here. And it looks even like there's a little bit of the esoteric. We have the star and some other things on here. There's a feeling perhaps of, when it said it's time maybe to get a mentor or someone who can come in to help perhaps point out something that maybe you yourself are not even realizing you're blocking yourself from seeing. It's almost like somebody coming in and saying, oh, wow, so, are you really going to put yourself in that position at work again? And you're like, what do you mean put myself in that position? And the person's like, well, remember when you said you weren't going to take on extra hours again without additional pay or recognition. And it's just as it's almost as small as that little thing can come in like that. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, that's my repeat pattern. I continually do this. No matter where I've worked in the past, I let my work kind of come in and keep giving me these extra tasks. And then I keep fulfilling them. And then I get burned out or I get frustrated because I'm not getting the extra recognition that I'm wanting. And it's almost like therein comes in the strategy that you haven't been willing to kind of take a look at this point of how can I create a strategy to prevent myself from falling back into this going around one more time. What is the strategy that I need to put in place for myself that's going to help me set, either hold to a firm boundary or to maybe break away from working in this industry to make my way into another industry that's better suited. But there's something here around, I think maybe perhaps there's been a lack of strategy at this point. You've kind of just been going through the motions. And now it's saying, okay, now it's time for you to break the cycle by putting a clear strategy in place for where you want to break the cycle. This would be like realizing, okay, I'm being tied back by something in myself. I have chained myself to something, and now I need to have a strategy in place as to how to extricate myself from that. And this can be saying, instead of just sitting there and being chained to a job that is ever increasingly stressful or is a job that is not rewarding for you to work in, this is saying, I'm going to put a strategy in place to start to take the steps to get myself to a place where I know what I'm looking for out of a work environment. I know what I want. I know what supports me and what doesn't. And I'm going to start to put those small steps in place, whether it's just starting to save money on the side so that in case I do have to, be unemployed for a certain amount of time, or just in case I have to take a pay cut, something along those lines, to where you're realizing this is the first steps of the strategy. Or this can be where maybe this is the realization of, wow, I've really held myself back from, allowing myself to go out and start dating again. And I've been holding myself back from really allowing myself to say, I'm gonna get into this relationship. And maybe you had hit that point in a relationship and you didn't want to get vulnerable again, and so you kind of broke it off. And then you're looking at yourself going, oh my gosh, actually I do want to free myself to be vulnerable in a new relationship, but I need a strategy as to how to make that happen. Do I need to possibly speak with a counselor or a therapist, or do I need to just have a strategy as to how to meet the right kind of person, and then how to be able to bring that person appropriately into my life? Maybe this could be where maybe the last time you were in a relationship, you jumped a little too fast and you moved right in with somebody, or you put aside your own self for the other person's needs. You moved in with them, or you cut, there's all kinds of ways where we can do that. But I do get this feeling of kind of building a strategy, an exit plan from something, an exit plan towards something to help you break the cycle of where you've been going round and round. So I'm going to pull some additional cards here, and we're going to see what else wants to come in around the strategy. And for some of you, you might just not be looking at that. When you think about blocking yourselves, it might be one of those things where you're, telling yourself, well, I can't get out of this. There is no way for me to break the chains that bind me to this thing. And it's saying there's always a way. Yeah, in Ten of Swords, this is being brought to your lowest point. This is where, man, you really were hurt at some point around whatever this is that you're facing this month. And there's a strategy that can allow you to learn from this, to learn. The beauty of the Ten of Swords is that you gain a new truth out of it. You gain a new perspective as to how strong you are and what you're capable of. And so there's an element here of really understanding that, of seeing that truth, honoring what you've gone through that brought you to that point, and then building a strategy. It's almost like realizing you've been, locked in the basement somewhere, chained to the wall, and yet in all that you've gone through and the entire ordeal of being, locked in this basement, that somehow in all of that you were able to, and I'm just thinking about this because I watched a movie that had a very similar plot line. It's around Halloween here, so there's a lot of those kind of dark movies coming out, but where maybe you coaxed the captor who's kept you chained to the wall to give you a nail file. And yet you've been holding this nail file the whole time, and without realizing, wow, I could pick my own lock with that and break free and start to strategize how to make that happen. And to realize that in the darkest moment, I've learned that I have some great conversation skills. I could be a salesman because I was able to convince somebody to be able to give me something that can free me from this. And in addition to that, I'm going to see how much stronger I am now by breaking my own chains and making the escape, instead of just kind of being stuck here in this codependent relationship with what brought me to my lowest point. Because a lot of times that's what happens with us. We'll sit there and we'll say, this thing brought me to my lowest point. And then we get like almost like an unhealthy relationship with it, where we sit there and we tie ourselves to it. We tie ourselves to that boss that made us feel like crap for so many years, and we stay stuck in that. Or we tie ourselves to an individual that, broke our hearts, and we keep focusing on that. And yeah, Page of Swords. Yeah, here's the truth. Here's you with your nail file. That's exactly what this is. This is you realizing, I have the nail file. What am I going to do with this? And the Page of Swords is also gaining context. It's realizing, well, what can I do with this? I have to go out there and use it. I have to get more information about this truth that I've discovered about myself. And that's where the strategy is going to come into play, is you being able to use whatever truth you've garnered out of this situation and start to go out there and work with it. Start to build a strategy around, again, the new truth, the new skill set you've realized, the clarity around some aspect of yourself and your experience, what you're realizing as you're going around again and refacing this point that brought you to this kind of lowest point, and realize I can make a strategy as to where I don't ever have to be in that position again. And this can look like, you can even be in a family dynamic. Maybe you're always the one in the family to take on all of the burdens, for the family itself, or one person in the family. And this is that realization of all of a sudden, well, where has it gotten me? And maybe it did at one point kind of bring you to your knees. Maybe, you had to give up everything to go and take care of this family member who just can't seem to take care of themselves, or whatever it is. You can, paint your own picture for yourself. But there's an element here of realizing that at some point that other person is going to have to, we are all responsible for ourselves, or there might be other people in your life that can lend a helping hand with this family dynamic. And suddenly you realize, oh, wow, I've gone through all of this. I was able to maybe walk away from a whole life I had built someplace else. And in trying to help out this other family member, I was able to build a whole new life over here, or start again. Or I have the ability to handle that kind of level of emotional kind of trauma. And it might actually bring up something for you to say, I actually do want to help individuals who, maybe I want to help elderly people who don't have anybody else to help them with, because I actually, even though this is very difficult for me to go through that whole experience, I have the ability, the strength now to work with that. I've unlocked a gift about myself in going through that. Or I've unlocked a gift about how easily I can pick up and move someplace else and kind of just meet people and get into the flow. And I don't have to stay stuck in the geographic location I'm in, because I know that I have the ability to walk away and go someplace else, and it's not going to affect me. In fact, I might even thrive. So there's something here around kind of realizing that something, again, is coming up to where you felt trapped, you felt brought to your lowest point, but there's a way to extricate yourself now around a truth that's coming in. So I'm going to see here, I'm going to pull a card for the concept of courage. And the message in this card is where Spirit would like you to have the courage to follow it, to heed it, so that you can continue to take action for yourself that is in line with laying the foundation, opening yourself up for this miracle, for this level of prosperity that wants to come in. So this could be for you this month, facing maybe some old relationship dynamic or aspect. Maybe an old flame has come back into your life, causing you to reevaluate how you've been in all previous relationships. And suddenly you have that clarity of, I don't want to be that person anymore. And all of a sudden, the more that you get clear as to how to strategize, how to not become that person or not get into that kind of codependent relationship, suddenly the person that you're meant to be with walks into your life, because now you're ready to see them for who they are, and you yourself are ready to not fall back into that kind of codependent cycle. Or it can be something around work. It could be that you realize that, again, you always play it safe. Maybe you're always the one that really wants to be the person who, maybe you have the ability to lead, but yet maybe you always had a boss or somebody above you who was pushing you down and not recognizing your efforts. And it hurt and it brought you to a point like this. And now you're realizing, actually, I can be a leader, but I just can't get into this dynamic. I have to have the strategy as to when I get into a new work environment, how do I set the tone to move into that place? How do I set boundaries with this new truth of knowing I can lead and I can handle working for a difficult individual, but how can I set the tone for not putting myself in a place where I'm going to be taking on the extra work as I always have, or working without a certain level of positive reinforcement or whatever. So this is that beautiful month to really get clear as to where you're not going to go back to this place, but also recognizing what you're freeing yourself from to allow in that specific area of your experience to grow. So it says, surrender to the beauty of the natural world. It says, take a relaxing break and spend time in nature. Replenish yourself by feeling the beauty and the ecstasy there. I really like this for you, Sagittarius, because you are a fire sign, but you're an adventurous fire sign. You are meant to go out and experience firsthand different people and cultures and religions and be able to really, you are, as I like to say, the honeybee of the zodiac. You're meant to kind of cross-pollinate in during your adventures, as you get all this experience, as you kind of work your way in and meet new people and go to new places. And there's a feeling strongly coming in of that here with the surrender to the beauty of the natural world. It's almost like it's time for you to get back out and get ready to go back on the adventure again, to kind of say, I'm going to go out. I'm going to see where the bend in the road is going to take me. Wow, that, sorry guys, shuffle did not work out very well. But I'm going to go back out there again, and I'm going to reconnect to nature. I'm going to reconnect as the honeybee of the zodiac into going out and seeing what beautiful flowers are out there. I'm just getting very intuitively. This is almost like, for those of you where this is around love, it's like getting back out there and either revisiting your current relationship, for those of you who are in a long-term relationship, from a different perspective, to say, like, let's go out and have fun together. Let's start to see the beauty in the flowers around us and really kind of rekindle that romance within each other and your life experience. Or if you're single, to say, I'm going to start to go out there and take a look at all the beautiful individual flowers, meaning all the individual people that are out there that I can start to meet and integrate, but also to enjoy the beauty of just experiencing them as the individual that they are. When you think about admiring beautiful flowers, anybody who's ever been to a beautiful field of wildflowers can be shocked at just the color and the variation of all the different species that are out there, which is so interesting. For those of you that in the work world, it's almost like opening your eyes up again to all the other opportunities. And again, seeing them as beautiful flowers, kind of shaking off this feeling of like, I have to stay tied to this one job because in the past, when I tried to leave, I lost a bunch of money, or when I tried to do X, Y, and Z, it didn't work out for me. And so saying, well, there's a whole world of beautiful work flowers out there for you to kind of go ding, 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 and start to see what's out there for yourself. It's a time I get this month of kind of breaking through and realizing that life is the adventure, but it's also a time of kind of tasting the fruits of the beauty of what's around you again, to see, okay, if I don't want to do this again, well, what else is out there for me? Opening your eyes up to that. And I think therein is going to be that beautiful thing that comes in that says, like, here's the new work opportunity over here. And you might not have realized it, but in just kind of opening yourself up to what else might be out there, you're seeing something that catches your eye. Or same thing with an individual, or an experience even, or maybe like it's you and your partner are looking to move someplace together, and suddenly you're realizing, wow, we can make this a fun adventure by maybe traveling across the country and just visiting each of these little cities to see, do we want to live here or there or here? So we have, Six of Cups, revisiting something from the past. On an emotional level, there's this element of nostalgia coming in, of getting back to a version of yourself that I always like to say is very authentic, pure, that child that lives within us. But it's remembering a time in your past when you felt like the whole world was your oyster, and getting connected to that, stepping into that emotional place. Because when we step into that, it is a portal. Our emotions are portals, yes, and therein lies the devil. So when I was saying you guys would change yourself to something, this is the card that denotes chaining yourself to something. So this is saying go back to a time when you felt free, when you hadn't chained yourself to something, when you didn't feel chained, when this could be entering a profession, when you felt like it was the joy of your life to do something. Or this can be the relationship that made you feel excited, that highlighted the best parts of yourself. This could be when you traveled the world for 2 years after college and you just realized there was so much more out there for you. But then something changed. And the bloom kind of, you weren't able to see the blooms, the beauty around you anymore. And it was because of going through a very difficult process that you then change yourself to something. It's almost like you were the person who changed yourself in the basement and said, you know what, I don't want to be hurt again on that level. I don't want to go through that. So I'm just going to put myself down here. Now I can bring this up in my own, as an example, a very specific example in my own life. Because in my work world, in my work environment, I worked many years in the world of hospitality and operational management in restaurants, and I burned myself out. I got to this point where I was working around the clock. I never had really mental time off, let alone emotional time off. And I worked for, a series of very A-type personalities that were very difficult to work with, who I could say borderline were possibly abusive, but I was also desperately looking for recognition that these people weren't able to give. And I was not in a place of being, I think, mature enough to be able to give myself that own recognition of saying, well, wow, this is what I'm capable of. And, it's time for me to move on. Instead, I allowed that whole kind of level of stress to permeate into my entire life. And it did. It brought me to a very low point. But the beauty of it was, and so actually, let me get back to the chaining part. So when I went back out into the work world, I avoided getting into positions of authority, where I had been at the top for so long. I had been, so much responsibility, so much stress, so many other people depending on the choices that I made. And I shied away from stepping up into a position of authority again. In fact, many of the jobs I held, I would get to that point, like right where I would be possibly asked to be promoted or to expand on my responsibilities. And that's when I would look to move to another job where I might make a little bit more money doing basically the same thing I was doing. So I was doing a lot of lateral movements, kind of shying away from getting up into that position of authority again, because I was afraid that I basically put myself in the basement and said, it's okay, guys, I'm just going to be down here in the basement. Don't mind me. Just give me the basic level of work and I'll just keep doing it. But I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be up there. Please don't give me any more. And what I had to come to terms with was the reality of seeing that in myself, seeing what I was kind of shying away from, realizing how I was chaining myself to the past and the experiences I had that were, somewhat traumatizing in my early work experience. And then going back to that beautiful place of reconnecting with myself before then. What were the joys, the creative endeavors I wanted to bring? What did I want to experience out of my work and my, my personal experience, and bringing those together? Like, what did I want out of that? Did I want to have, what freedom did I want from it? And so I had to really reevaluate myself and then finally realize, kind of to unlock those chains and to say, I will step up into that place again of taking on more responsibility. In fact, I'll even do so to the full extent of starting my own business, where now I have not only just, me as responsibility, but all the things that come along with that. And it can be a really challenging experience to be able to sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to take the leap again. I'm going to come up out of the basement, step up into the, glaring light of day. But that glaring light of day is the beauty of the grand design. And I think for many of you, you might feel that way, that all of a sudden you realize what you've been holding yourself back from experiencing. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then you look around and it's almost like you found yourself in the land of Oz after being in Kansas. It's like, oh my God, I haven't seen the world in color in this way in so long. And it's there. And that's the miracle that wants to come in for you. There's something here where it's going to be, again, it's going to be showing you where perhaps you're ready for that surprise job offer, or you're ready for the love of your life to come in, because you're finally realizing, I'm bringing myself out of the basement and I'm bringing myself into the full light of day. And this full light of day with the full knowledge first. It's almost like you've had the internal knowledge and now you get to go out into the world and experience it firsthand and see where this new internal knowledge is going to take you externally. Okay, so let's see what's going to come up for Sagittarius. Pulling a card here for the concept of contemplation. So this is where Spirit would like you to stay reflective to throughout the month of October to really help bring in this extra message here. What does Sagittarius need to know about where to stay reflective? Ooh, yeah, we have 3 cards. Okay, so we have the crumbling. What are you clinging to? And this card always makes me think of the Tower card in the traditional tarot. So there is something here that is crumbling, but it's crumbling in your benefit. And I love how I've been talking about wildflowers and all the beautiful colors. And here it is. Here's the dark, stormy gates opening, and what's on the inside? A whole, as far as the eye can see, sea of rolling hills with all different colors and varieties of wildflowers. You're opening yourself up again to the beauty of life. And in this opening is the next opportunity for you to level up in a major way in some aspect of your experience. It says transformation. Things are changing at a cellular level, deep healing. I love that. This shows that, again, that internal realization, that's where the alchemical process is happening within you. It's that realization of, oh my gosh, I'm so much stronger than this. I'm so much better than this. This is what I needed to learn. And finally, now I'm seeing it about myself. And as you do that, you actually become a different being, physically on a cellular level, but also spiritually. And when that spiritual shift happens, that's the key that unlocks the gates here to prosperity. And then we have Pillar of Light. It says your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. And I love this card because it's a reminder that we are all pillars of light. We are nothing but, vibrational light waves. And it's a reminder of that. It's a reminder that we actually can, as physical beings, change and alter our own vibrational frequency, whether it's through listening to sound, whether it is, being in a place where there's a specific resonance, but it's also where we just attune our thoughts, attune our own body, our energy to the energy of love, but to the energy of beauty, to the energy of excitement and curiosity and optimism again. And when we start to raise our vibration there, that's what brings in and makes a massive shift in our whole experience. And you're there. I'm going to pull just an additional clarifier here to see, get a final kind of underlying message for that one. And then I'll pull a final card for the concept of love. So let's see here, Sagittarius. What does Sagittarius need to know about let's see. I know this is a very hard deck for me to shuffle. Sometimes the cards pop right out and sometimes I have to pull one. Okay. Oh, interesting. So one of the cards is the same as a card that just came out for Leo. So we have, you have 3 cards again. Oh my goodness. So we have Beaver Spirit, lay a solid foundation, number 6, bringing in the energy of love, home, family. Beautiful. And then we have mouse spirit, tend to the small things, number 40, also breaking down to a number 4. So we have 4 and 6, but 4 is the number that is about laying foundation. So this is really tending, again, tend to the small things. Have the strategy as to where you want to build a foundation for the new, but at the same time, in building the foundation for the new, you are extricating yourself from the old. And then we have the turtle spirit, slow and steady wins the race, number 62, breaking down to number 8, number of personal empowerment, number that really speaks to also empowered leadership and physical abundance. So there's this element here of it's not a race to the finish line. It's more about this subtle, again, internal kind of realization that turns the key in the lock that shows you that it's time to walk out of the basement and into the light of day, and that it's time for you to start this kind of next cycle for yourself, and to do so from a place of real grounding in what you've gone through, what you've learned about yourself, what you're not going to go back to again. And the miracle is going to come in as being, I think, this new opportunity that's going to suit the new you, that as you come out, it's almost like coming out of the basement into the light of day. There's this beautiful field out there, and suddenly somebody walks up and says, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you to come up. Here's the opportunity. So just be prepared for that. Okay, so now let's see about your final card here, the concept of love. Now I'll read this. I do like this just kind of as like a general extra message here, and then we'll also look at it from the other perspective of applying to specifically to romantic love. So what does Sagittarius need to know about romantic love? Okay, so we have chemistry. It says there's a strong magnetic attraction here. So when we think of chemistry, which is kind of interesting because I'm going to take this in two ways. So generally, the element of chemistry, when we think of that alchemical process happening within us, when we have that self-realization, that kind of stealing within ourselves where we're like, wow, I am the person I never thought I could be. I've become the person who's strong in a relationship. I've become the person that can handle a full workload at work. I am the person who can handle, a geographic change in where I live. That all of a sudden, that process that happens within yourself, and that also happens spiritually, it is truly a chemistry. It's a chemical process. It's you turning into literally a higher version of yourself. And I like how this says there's a strong magnetic attraction here. It means that you're now magnetizing yourself. You have changed your frequency to magnetize towards you the right opportunity, the right work environment, the right romantic partner, the right family and friends that are meant to be supportive for you. So keep that in mind, that it's very important to be aware of this vibration, to be aware of elevating the experience that you went through to this higher level of awareness, to say, I've risen above that. I've survived that. I'm going back to the pure version of myself that's not tainted by this, but that's only heightened by this. And I'm going to release myself from the devil. I'm going to unlock the doors. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to see what magnetically becomes attracted to me because I've changed my frequency. It's almost like being able to repolarize yourself. So when we think about magnets, a negative and a positive polarization, that's what allows for magnetic attraction to happen. And maybe at one point you were trying to attract this to you, but you had the same polarization. So maybe you were trying to attract this positive outcome, but you yourself were positive and didn't realize it. So you kept kind of pushing it away. And I know when we think of positive and negative, we think positive is, good and negative is bad. I'm just using these as examples here I'll change it actually to be more in alignment with how we perceive those words and their meaning. So let's say you had wanted this positive outcome over here, but it was actually negative. So it was a negative outcome and you yourself were negative and you kept kind of just, you're negative, pushing this away. So every time you tried to get closer to this, it went away. tried to get closer and you pushed it away. And now it's saying, now you've learned to change your vibration from this negative one to this positive one, to this one of appreciation for yourself, appreciation for who you are, what you've learned. And all of a sudden, that experience out here, this negative experience that you wanted, is going to come smack and be attracted to you. You won't even have to go out and look for it. It's just going to come to you. And again, it's not saying that this is a negative experience. It's saying that you had wanted this, but you had to be the right person to attract it. You had to be the right partner for that type of person to bring that person into you. You had to be the right type of leader to bring that work opportunity to you. You had to be the right type of person to, bring the family together to you. There's something here around that where I think you had been on a certain polarized level, and you kept kind of getting closer and pushing it away and getting closer, pushing it away, and not realizing that all you needed to do was change your vibration, and change your vibration to one of self-confidence, of realizing what it takes to actually bring this towards you, and then just owning it. Then just allowing that new version of yourself to be seen, and the opportunity is going to come and kind of smack you in the face, Sagittarius, in a good way. All right, I'm going to leave you all there. I hope you've enjoyed this. I think this is the longest reading I've done, so it's definitely a very important one, and I hope you've taken the time to listen, and if you have, I really appreciate it. Now, if you'd like to visit my website to either book a personal reading or just to learn more, if you want to book a personal reading to learn more and to illuminate more about who you are as a unique individual and your spiritual importance and where it can help elevate the collective experience, where you can be of service yourself by just being yourself, you can click on the link in the description box below to visit my website. And if I don't see you there, I hope to see you guys all in November for your next illumination reading. Bye, everyone.